Welcome back to GB Retrospectives. It sure has been a while since the last one. Seeing as this series began with a visual novel, it's only fitting that the new batch of retrospectives for the new year will start off with another one. This time, however, things are going to be much more tame in comparison. No extreme deaths, no psychological horror, and no depressing psychological questions that you'll be asking yourself by the end of it all. Just you, an idiotic MC, or main character, and a bunch of girls you set off to hook up with. Basically a waifu simulator. Perfect for Valentine's Day, am I right? God damn it, not again. Seriously though, as per usual, I'll be looking to see what makes this game tick. So let's not waste any more time and delve right in.
Oh yeah, there's explicit scenes in this one. Won't show them in the video, obviously. Don't need YouTube on my bad side. Just felt I should make a note beforehand, okay? Okay.
Real, compelling characters are an important part of making a good story, and Katawa Shoujo excels with its characters. Each of the main girls are physically impaired. Lily is blind, Shizune is deaf and mute, Emi doesn't have legs, Rin doesn't have arms, and Hanako is a burn victim with extreme anxiety. However, those disabilities don't define them, as they push past them to attain their goals in life. For example, Rin is able to paint masterpieces with her feet. The important thing is, they are written as they're supposed to be, like actual people with their own lives. It's even more fascinating when you realize how this visual novel was written, but I'll get to that later. I suppose the best way to explain this is to share my first experience with it. I went in blind, as I have never experienced a visual novel before. I had answered things as I normally would, even though there were times where the MC would be a fucking moron. But at the end of the day, I ended up on Hanako's route, which was the path I was interested in taking in the first place. As time went on, I grew to understand who Hanako was, and what tragedies were behind her scars. She's very timid to people she's unfamiliar with, usually running away to avoid conversation, but as she slowly gets to know someone, she can warm up to them.
My god, that's fucking awful.
Look, my point is, I got through her route and got the good ending. It felt satisfying to see a character who was extremely shy being able to open up in front of people. And no, I'm not going to spoil the entire route, I'm just giving a brief summary of what my experience was like. Maybe my experience was enjoyable because at the time I related to her in some way. Back in high school, I would typically avoid interacting with people I hadn't talked to regularly, in part due to trust issues, but mostly due to the fact I just didn't care to. Of course, I'm not the same as I was then, but that was what I was like when I first played through Katawa Shoujo. Now, I could go over the experiences of friends of mine who went down Emi and Rin's routes, but that would just be adding on time to the video to just make it longer. And I'm kinda lazy. So yeah. Plus, they do have busy schedules, so this video would have been delayed even longer. We gotta move on anyways, seeing as I did say there was something I would talk about later. Why not do that now? One thing that's interesting about Katawa Shoujo is that every route was written by different people from the Four Leaf Studios team, meaning each story has its own feel to it. The several routes also appeal to a large variety of different people, each with their own likes, dislikes, and so on. Of course, with the various people who've experienced this visual novel, there are people that suggest there is a best route. But to be honest, it all is just dependent on the person who went through it. As an example, I really like Hanako's route, but really dislike Shizune's, as it doesn't feel like there's a real good ending for it. However, there are those who went through Shizune's route and prefer it over others, so, I mean, difference of opinion. Pretty sure that's an obvious point, though. Honestly, there's not that much else that needs to be said here. The different styles of writing all flow together naturally, without feeling like something is disconnected somewhere along the way. Where in other scenarios, one writer could fail at doing just that. It's definitely impressive. I've mentioned experiences a lot when talking about this visual novel, but it really is what it's like. In fact, there's a meme about Katawa Shoujo. Came for the lewds, left in tears. And it's not quite inaccurate, as there are people who downloaded it thinking it would just be some nonsensical, lewd visual novel. No real characters, no real story, just basically porn. If the meme's any indication, they certainly were in for a rude awakening. Instead of what they thought would just be porn, they got emotional over the well-written routes and characters. Or perhaps a scenario where someone was told about the game through some friends of theirs, who neglected to say anything about those scenes. Perhaps this person would be going through a route, as one normally would, seeing how the story progressed, while a family member was in the other room. When boom! A wild sex scene appeared. Would be real awkward if that family member happened to walk in while this person was just trying to finish their visual novel. In fact, that family member would likely want a real awkward explanation if this person were to get caught. This person must be considering themselves very lucky that they didn't get caught. But even so, don't think that person forgives. Don't think they forget. They never forgive. They never forget. You know who you fuckers are. Anyways, my whole point here was, as with all good media, this really is an experience, even if you didn't expect that to be the case at first. While I could go on about the fantastic art, the memorable soundtrack, and the other great parts of this visual novel, I felt the biggest recurring theme to me that really sells the experience is how natural it all felt. And that is when you know something's good. So if I had to use one word to describe the success of Katawa Shoujo, it would have to be realism. To contrast my point, let's look at a separate visual novel that has no relatability, characters with wooden personality disorder, and no sense of realism whatsoever. That's right, I'm talking about the Sakura series! While I could go all day contrasting the two while ranting, let's simplify it this way. Katawa Shoujo feels like a real experience with defined characters, while the Sakura series is basically this.
I see you don't have a lifeguard here at your beach.
I'm not at the beach, this is a bathtub.
I think I made my point clearly enough. While I can't say you'll have a similar experience to mine in a game, as with any other entertainment medium, everyone has their own experiences, due to the various personalities and preferences. What I can say is that anyone who's played Katawa Shoujo can agree with me when I say it's a memorable experience. It's always interesting coming back to Katawa Shoujo, seeing as it was the first visual novel I put time into. While this seems like one of my shorter retrospectives thus far, I've had this one planned since the beginning. However, I've postponed it for as long as I have, as I wanted to give this all more thought before doing it for real. My only hope is that I was able to do it justice. Oh, and as a reminder, Hanako is best girl! In all seriousness, thank you for watching. These retrospectives are always a blast to put together, and I intend to follow this one up with another episode very soon. Perhaps next month. Hopefully it will be worth the wait. Until then though, Goldenbrawler out.